No audio. Are we back? Okay, the sound is back. Thank you, everybody. I'm here now. Okay, so let's take two. You are here live for the Friday edition of Real Talk with Mary Grace. And I welcome everybody. You should have sound now. Hopefully, you will. Um, do we still not have sound? We should have sound. Okay, there we go. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. There's a little bit of a lag. Okay, welcome. This is the Friday edition of Real Talk with Mary Grace. You are here watching me live. If you are on Periscope or Facebook or YouTube or Clout Hub, please make sure you're following me. Please make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications. And if you hear noise in the background, it's Barley the cat, and he decided that he wants to play with his cardboard box. So I'm not going to get up right now and stop him. He was sleeping when I started. Anyway, that's what that crazy noise is. We're not in a warehouse packing things, it's just the cat. Okay. Um, just the little joys of broadcasting from home. Alrighty. Now, it's so crazy. I'm like, Barley? Ah, there you go. Okay. So, welcome everybody. Please share this. Please retweet. Please follow. And if you're here for the first time, definitely make sure you set your reminders to watch me. My normal broadcasting days are Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Things have been a little bit different because we're in election season, and so just bear with me as we get through the changes. I was in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Some of you saw me broadcasting live from Washington, D.C. a couple of times. I was actually up there with some good friends of mine and also with Kat Kerr. And I encourage you to go back and watch that broadcast because that was a live broadcast of her declaration over the election for 2020. She's a prophet who spends a lot of time in heaven with God. And so the revelation that she gets is very powerful and very encouraging. And so her name is Kat Kerr, Katkerr. She's also written two books about heaven. And so I do encourage you to do that. It was really a joy and a pleasure to be with her yesterday in her presence, and we got to go to dinner, and just it was nice. It was just really nice. She's just a really down to earth person who loves her family, loves God, and is just really obedient to God's call on her life. So it's very encouraging to be around her. Um, and so if you didn't watch that broadcast yesterday, it is on my Periscope channel. It's not on the other channels. So that's Mary Grace Media on Periscope. And we were out there in the rain, and a lot of other amazing things happened. One of the things that happened I wanted to tell you about, which is that we were going to park on the in the front of the Capitol on the mall side by the reflecting pool near the Botanic Garden. And there was a lot of construction, and it was just kind of difficult to get there. And so we went up around to the Supreme Court side. And as we were driving around, I really sensed that that was where God wanted us, on the Supreme Court side, even though in the past, Kat has broadcast from the other side, from the Capitol steps. And so this time we went around to the Supreme Court side, and we parked on the street between the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress. And I think that if you watched me, you saw that there was hardly anybody in Washington D.C. It was practically empty. And so we pulled up on the curb, and we got really almost the first spot we found. We wanted to park closer to the street, to the cross street, so that we could put the camera under the tailgate of the car because it was raining. Well, that didn't happen because there was another car parked right near the corner, and it looked like a TV crew. And so we started our broadcast. And if you noticed during the broadcast that there was a moment when Kat said that Donald Trump was going to have another 4 years in the White House. And the men who were on that TV crew were cheering. They said, "Yay!" And that alone was really strange because we're watching them, and we're just thinking, okay, that's weird. Somebody from the media is cheering on Donald Trump. That's crazy. And so, Kat finished her broadcast, and I went up and talked to them briefly, the men from the crew. There were two guys, and it turns out they're from Iraqi television, an Iraqi television network. And so we started talking to them after we finished our broadcast, and they're Donald Trump supporters. They love Donald Trump. The one reporter, he's a correspondent for Iraqi news, and so they're here in DC covering the election, and so they wanted to interview us. They ended up interviewing Kat, and then they interviewed me, and it was fantastic because I got to talk about the election. I got to talk about the Abraham Accord, the work that the president has done to bring peace into the Middle East. The guy actually had really good questions. You could tell that he's been involved for a while. He's paying attention to what's going on, and so it was really encouraging. It was a total God appointment, and then he actually asked Kat if she could come on the show for a 30-minute segment at some point to be interviewed. And so, God positioned us right there next to the Supreme Court at the Capitol to meet this Iraqi TV crew. And if we had been on the other side of the Capitol, we wouldn't have seen them. So it really was one of those amazing things where God just puts you in the right place at the right time. It was really neat. And so it was just really encouraging. And let's see. Okay, Instablock. Now, the so go back and watch that interview. You can also watch it. You can watch Kat's broadcast on my Periscope channel. If you're watching on Facebook, you can watch on Kat's Facebook page, which is the Kat Kerr. That's her official Facebook page, and so you can go and watch it. It was from yesterday. Okay, so let me keep going here. For those of you who are just coming in, welcome. I'm Mary Grace. This is a live broadcast. I'm giving you updates on what's going on in the news, in the world, and with the election. And so I'm just going to try to get as much content into this hour as I can. Please make sure you're following me and subscribed on YouTube, Clout Hub, Periscope, Facebook. And a lot of people have been asking how they can support the show. There are a couple of ways you can do that. If you go to my website, marygracemedia.com, you can click on support, and you can be a one-time supporter or you can be a monthly subscriber. I also have a Venmo and I have a PO box. So if you prefer to do snail mail and a check, you can do that. The way to get that information is to email me, info@marygracemedia.com, and I'll give you that information. So let's see. Somebody said they're not seeing chat. That might be on your end, Millie. I see I've got a lot of people here on Facebook, so welcome everybody. And yeah, so good. I mean, on YouTube. Okay, so I don't know what's happened to the chat on Periscope, but it is what it is. I have a technical thing that I wanted to let you guys know, though. I am streaming this on Restream, and it's a fairly new platform to me. And I've noticed that halfway through, for some reason, I'm losing the stream. So if for some reason it slows down, or you get dead air halfway through this broadcast, just stick with me, because for some reason it seems to come back. And I don't know why it does that. There may be a glitch. The other question I have is if there's a technical person who can help me figure out why the Google Chrome helper is using up all of my CPU space. Please help me figure that out, because it's cycling in the background on my Mac when I'm doing my broadcast. It sounds like a whirring sound. It's using up almost all of my CPU, and I haven't been able to figure out how to get it off. I've Googled it, and the directions that I'm seeing aren't really helping me. So I do need some technical help on that, please, so that I can get these broadcasts to you more efficiently. Okay, now I wanted to jump right into a couple of things, and that is, well, there's a few things I want to talk about today, and there's one thing that happened this morning with our favorite letter of the alphabet dropped a document that a lot of people have been circulating. It's a very long document, and I wanted to talk about it because it's important. And I'm going to read through it. I'm thinking about. I would like to read the whole thing, but it's rather long. It's a 4-page letter, and I may I'm just going to highlight it for you. But I encourage you to go and read it. And the title of this document is it's a letter, an open letter to the President of the United States of America from the uh, from um, the Archbishop Carlos Maria Vigano. He has written to the president before, and this is a really important letter, and it's talking about something that is happening and that is being leveraged by the situation with the virus, and it's very very important that you take the time to read this and to really pray through this because it's they wouldn't have put it on there if it wasn't important, for one thing. Now, I will tell you that some of the things in this letter that are being described by the Archbishop, I have been seeing on YouTube and in my feed, and people have been sending me things having to do with what's going on. And some of it I sort of dismissed as a little like a bridge too far. I thought, okay, this is a little bit out there in conspiracy land, and I'm not too sure about this. And so when I read this letter this morning, I was pretty shaken because, again, it wouldn't be on the drops. Our military intelligence source would not be dropping this if it were not important. Okay, so somebody said that Remnant YouTube has a nice video reading of the letter. That's great. So is it just, it's under Remnant YouTube? I would appreciate it if somebody could okay, now Barley's playing with his dragonfly. I would appreciate it if somebody could put that could put the exact YouTube channel in there. So is it just Remnant? I really think it's important. So if you're not a reader, or if you hear better, on audio or video, make sure that you just listen to it. And when you're in a quiet place where you can really pay attention to what's going on, I'm going to go and listen to it too. But here's the thing. I'm going to read the beginning of this because it really is that important. And I'm reading it on lifesitenews.com. That is a pro-life blog and website, and they have a really good link there. They have a PDF that you can copy and print as well. Lifesitenews.com. That's where I'm finding it. General Flynn posted a link as well. Okay, so let me read this. It says, Mr. President, this letter was dated the 25th of October, 2020. Okay, so allow me, dear Mr. President, allow me to address you at this hour in which the fate of the whole world is being threatened by a global conspiracy against God and humanity. I write to you as an archbishop, as a successor to the apostles, as the former apostolic nuncio to the United States of America. I am writing to you in the midst of the silence of both civil and religious authorities. May you accept these words as mine in the voice of one crying out in the desert. And he references John 1:23. As I said when I wrote my letter to you in June, this historical moment sees the forces of evil aligned in a battle without quarter against the forces of good, forces of evil that appear powerful and organized as they oppose the children of light, who are disoriented and disorganized, abandoned by their temporal and spiritual leaders. Daily, we sense the attacks multiplying of those who want to destroy the very basis of society, the natural family, respect for human life, love of country, freedom of education and business. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pandering to this suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of citizens and believers are denied in the name of a health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny. I'm going to read that part again because it encapsulates what so many of us have been feeling and sensing and even saying from the beginning, and by what from what we're seeing happen all around us. I'm going to read this again. We see heads of nations and religious leaders pandering to this suicide of Western culture and its Christian soul, while the fundamental rights of citizens and believers are denied in the name of a health emergency that is revealing itself more and more fully as instrumental to the establishment of an inhuman, faceless tyranny. This is not hype. This is not a Chicken Little moment. This is a grave, grave moment in our nation's history. And I can't stress to you how important it is that Donald Trump remain in office and that this be addressed. This is just the tip of the iceberg of what this letter says. It goes into detail about something called the Great Reset. It goes into detail about what is being planned for you, for your family, for your community, for your business. And it is not pretty. All of the things that we've been joking about with when you listen to AOC and other people talk about universal basic income, when Yang was out there saying that everybody should get $1,000 a month, when you see these people talking about forgiving debt and paying off people's mortgages and having a society where nobody owns property, when you see these things being discussed, and it's easy to just laugh them off and say, "Oh, that's crazy. That's never going to happen." Well, I'm telling you right now that this is what is being thrust on society in many parts of the world right now. If you look at what's happening in Europe at this very moment, there have been massive protests in Rome this week. Just yesterday, Paris was in gridlock, total gridlock, because of the new lockdowns that are being imposed this weekend. People were fleeing the city. All over this country, people are fleeing cities because of what they've been through and what they've endured in these lockdowns since this global this health emergency was declared. It's not good. I was talking to a friend who told me that her brother closed his business, his small business, um, even though he got unemployment money as a private contractor, even though he had all of that, he's in Pennsylvania, and the tyranny of trying to run a business in Pennsylvania, the tyranny of the government there is just completely squelching any attempts for small businesses to remain viable. And in the very beginning, when this started, if you recall, it was people were asked to volunteer and cooperate in closing their businesses to flatten the curve and prevent an overrun of the hospitals. Everyone agreed to that because we were told that it was a national, international pandemic, an emergency, and that we were saving lives. And looking back on that, I just I wish that nobody had complied, because it showed it was like an experiment to see just how willing people were to go along with this charade. And so now we find ourselves in a position that the world is on the brink. Western civilization and all of the things that we know are on the brink. And somebody just said their parents are in Paris and the media is misreporting the lockdown there. Maybe you can send me a message and give me more details about this, because this is what we're seeing. In any case, let me just give you an example from my own personal experience that is hitting home right here, right in Virginia. This is an example. So I've told you from the beginning that my sense with these governors who are imposing these draconian measures on individuals and on businesses is that they are going around the judicial, sorry, the legislative process when they are imposing all of these regulations on businesses. They're going around the legislative process. They're going around the legislative process in mandating face coverings, for example. I've said this from the beginning. And then I said the way that they're going to enforce this is by weaponizing the regulatory agencies like the health department, like OSHA. And so this is exactly what's happening. And I want to tell you something that happened just this week to friends of mine who own a business in Virginia. They got a surprise visit from somebody from OSHA, and this person came into their business unannounced, and they had a list of alleged infractions that had been committed by the business. Um, and so the list was something like this. I'm going to tell you what was on the list. Um, okay. And this business has remained open. Let me just give you an example. This is a healthcare provider. They have remained open through the entirety of the lockdowns. They have been providing essential services such as X-rays. They have been providing lab work. They have been doing things that a lot of people were afraid to go to the hospital to do. And so in July of this year in Virginia, the government invoked a whistleblower clause so that if you were working in a business where you felt that your safety was not being taken care of by the business owner in alignment with these COVID guidelines, that you could whistleblow, that you could report anonymously and be protected. And so that puts a business owner in a position of always worrying and wondering if their employee is going to rat them out, or if a consumer is going to do that. And it completely bypasses the legislative process. It also bypasses due process. And if anybody remembers the businesses that were targeted by the Obama administration, by the IRS, or by the EPA, this is an example of how this is. So, for example, back in before the president uh, before the president changed before the president changed a lot of these regulations, anybody who had even a puddle on their property couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't change the water because it was considered like a watershed, a protected watershed. So farmers couldn't reroute water or anything like that under these ridiculous EPA regulations. If they did, they would get fined. They would have their property seized, and the fines are capricious and punitive. It's not just a slap on the wrist. So I'm going to give you an example of what happened to my friends who own a business in Virginia. This is what happened. First of all, the OSHA person was there most of the day on Tuesday. They came back today. They got there at 11 o'clock and they just left after grilling all of her employees all day long. And so now they've had to hire a lawyer. They've had to go to the expense of hiring a lawyer. And here's an example of something the alleged infraction. Employees are not following social distancing of 6 feet. Employees are huddling together without masks. This is what was reported on them. So somebody snitched on them and said that this was happening in the office. So this is an office where people are given hands-on physical care, and the employees consult together and work together and take care of patients. Here's another one. Patients are not required to wear face coverings when receiving services and are not required to observe social distancing. So they're performing physical rehab on patients in this office, and they're being reported for not observing social distancing from the patients. They also know that patients are protected by ADA and OSHA and HIPAA law, which does not require them to wear a face covering if they have a medical reason not to. Okay. So I'm not seeing any chat right now, and I don't know if that's because you're just listening. If you're here, just hit the hearts on whatever platform you're watching on, so that I know that I'm not frozen out of the broadcast. But so this is what's happening now. This business. Okay, here's another one. The employer is not providing an adequate supply of hand sanitizer to use to clean hands. So I'm in this office a lot, and I can tell you that there's hand sanitizer all over the office. It's in all the bathrooms. It's, right there at the counter when you walk in. Um, all of that. Okay. So this is an infraction. Now, you would think that, under normal circumstances, if we were not living in an upside down world where businesses are being extorted by regulatory agencies to follow guidelines that are based on faulty science at best and that are put in place by people who are not even doctors. um, these are arbitrary and capricious guidelines. Now, they're not just guidelines, apparently they're law. And what happens if you break these laws? I'll tell you what happens. You get fined for each infraction. Can anybody tell me how much a business in Virginia gets fined if they are guilty of these infractions? Now, mind you, there's no due process. The business doesn't have the ability to go to court and face their accuser. They're just fined. Can anybody have any idea? I don't know when it became law, and I'm going to be doing a little bit more research on this. And the sad thing about this is that the person who works for OSHA, who came in, actually is a Trump supporter and doesn't agree with what is going on in this situation. Uh, but this is their job, right? So it's highly effective because it's extortion. And most people, most businesses would go out of business within a month if they're not already out of business because of the lockdowns and because of all the restrictions and the social distancing and all the 50% capacity restrictions. If they're not already out of business, they're trying desperately to stay in business after having to buy plexiglass and PPE and all this crap that is not scientifically proven to prevent anything except communication. You still, okay, so here's how much you get fined for each infraction, each one: $13,000. $13,000. Now, you think about the people that you know who own a small business. Think about the people that you know that own a small business and they're trying to make payroll. And in many cases, especially after COVID, businesses are actually putting payroll on a credit card because they don't have enough cash flow to make payroll and they're trying to keep their employees on board. And so you think of a business that you know that has $13,000 of cash flow, to throw at a fine based on a whistleblower complaint from somebody that the business owner doesn't even have the right to face their accuser. This is what's happening. So this should be a wake-up call for anybody who thinks that this is going away, because let me tell you what else I found out. This is what the OSHA lady told my friend. She said that, yeah, if there's somebody, okay, this is what the OSHA lady told my friend. She said that the mask regulations in businesses aren't going away. Okay, who told you that just last week? Who told you that nobody is going to come out one day and tell you that this is just done? That okay, everybody take off the masks, it's all good. And this is what else she told my friend. She said this is permanent, and going forward, all businesses are responsible. All businesses should assume that every person who walks into their place of business is potentially infectious. Sorry. That all businesses, let me say this again. Okay, this is important. Pray, my intercessors, please pray for me because I need to get this out. This is important. That anybody who walks into your business you should assume that they are carrying an infectious disease when they walk into your business, and you should take measures to protect everybody in your place of business and your employees from being infected. Did you guys get that? That from now on, in the state of Virginia, any business owner is responsible for protecting their employees and their customers from the potential of any one person being carrying an infectious disease. When in the history of mankind has that ever even happened? Like when has that ever been a thing? How did we go from just wash your hands and practice good hygiene and don't go out when you're sick to putting the onus on a business owner for protecting everybody that comes into their sphere and tries to do business with them from getting sick? This is egregious. This is beyond. This is so far beyond, oh, it's just a mask. But because everybody has been willing to go along with it, because everybody walks into the store with a mask on, because everybody's willing to stand beside the stupid line. Oh, they have to put those stupid things on the floor. They can't serve water in the office anymore. They can't serve coffee. So this is a big problem. And I'm really praying that when Trump gets in office, that the hammer comes down on these governors, because let's go back to the letter that I was referencing from the Archbishop. What he is warning of is exactly this: that the people in positions of power are doing everything they can to squash the middle class, to prevent them from making a living, and they're doing it through the regulatory agencies. There's not been a single legislative session in the state of Virginia to put any of this into law. But somehow it's become law, and any business owner who does not comply is hit with a $13,000 fine for each infraction. Okay, so you're looking at, for this business owner, they're looking at potentially $200,000 in fines for this. And this employee, who we know who it is, but the employee didn't come to them, didn't say, hey, I don't feel safe about this, did it, whatever. Okay, here's the other thing: if the intent really were to prevent the spread of COVID, wouldn't it make more sense to reward those businesses that had managed to have low case numbers, to have no infections, to have all of their people be healthy? Okay, let me tell you something. This office, since the beginning of all of this, has had one patient that reported positive for COVID, and one employee that reported positive for COVID. And the employee is the same one that did the whistleblowing. The employee hasn't ever produced verification that they were positive for COVID. And this person is in their 20s and wasn't really even that sick. So you have a business, a provider that has seen thousands of patients. Thousands, guys. This is a very busy office. Thousands of patients since March of this year. Thousands. Out of all those people, they haven't required masks. They've, encouraged them if people want them. They haven't been, they clean. They keep the place clean. It's sanitized, everything. But they've focused on building people's immune systems. Out of all the thousands that they've seen, 2 cases of COVID have been reported. So if I were OSHA, if I were the Department of Health, I would be rewarding this business. I would be setting this business as an example of what to do right. Does that not follow any logic? What do you guys think? But no, no, they're being penalized, and they are being put under scrutiny because somebody reported that they were breaking the rules. You can't fire an employee that has been a whistleblower. That's the thing. The whistleblower cause, the whistleblower cause protects the employee from being fired for at least 6 months. And I have another friend in the same town who is going through this with an employee who is extorting them. And this employee is working from home and getting paid a full-time salary, and is collecting information on my friend about all of the things that he's doing wrong, supposedly. And so this friend also has had to hire an attorney to advise him and so that he can keep his business open, so that this one rogue employee will not so that this one rogue employee will not tank his business. This is what's happening. So this is the system that has been set up. And this is very much in line with what you see in communist countries, or go back to Nazi Germany. What happened to people in the cities, for example, if they served Jews, if they served Jews in their business, if they did business with the unclean people, what happened to them? They were blacklisted. It's very interesting, isn't it? I'm not seeing much chat again, but this is what I yeah, this is what I'm seeing. And I'm not an attorney. I want to get a hold of these regulations so that I can dig into it, though, because I'm pretty good at figuring out and finding loopholes and things, and I am encouraging them to join a class action lawsuit if they can. But the other thing is, if you put yourself out there like that and join a class action lawsuit, it also puts you in a position of of having um, to hold on a second. Somebody's telling me something interesting. No, somebody just asked me if this was Monday's show. It's Friday. I don't know why that's not coming up. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, we'll just see. All right. Sorry about that. It's Friday. I'm still learning the platform. Now, so yeah, so that's the thing, guys. I want to get this information. I want to dig into it. But if you join a class action suit, it also puts you on the radar. It puts you on the radar, to be blacklisted by patients, especially if you live in a liberal city, because you've got all of the Karens out there, all of the Corona Karens who are just looking to cancel your business and destroy it. This is lawfare that's happening right now, and there has to be a stop to it. It's really infuriating when it happens to somebody that's close to you. So you think about all of those people. Who are you think about all the people that are under the gun, just to try to keep their business going, just to try to keep their business afloat. Okay. um at the end of the show, I will go back to the question about whether it's Monday's broadcast. I want to fix it, but I'm not going to take airtime to do that. I do want to troubleshoot it, though. So come back to that at the end. I would love to figure this out. Now, let me pivot to talk about the election while I have you guys online here. Now, um, this is something that okay, two things that I could use help with. Two things, three things maybe. If anybody can help me figure out how to stop my CPU from running when I'm doing Restream, it says there's a Google Chrome helper running in the background. That's one thing. If anybody can help me source the regulations in Virginia that are supposedly being violated by OSHA, if somebody can help me, just give me the links so that I can read the actual statutes and the regulations. I haven't had time to look it up, but I would really like to look more deeply into that. If anybody can do that, that would be amazing. That would be awesome. All right, now, and then again, I want to go back to what I was saying about this letter that was put out by the Archbishop. Please go and make sure that you read it. Go to lifesitenews.com, or you can go to the Remnant YouTube channel, and make sure that you are that you listen to it, because it's really important to listen to this and to pray into it. I don't think that document for Virginia is on the CDC website. They're saying that the governor says on the Virginia website, it says in the absence of national guidelines, they're making these guidelines. So they're basically taking matters into their own hands. And I'm trying to find the text of the regulations. I don't want the press release or the news articles about it. I want the actual statute numbers. I want the regulations under OSHA that are applicable in Virginia specific to COVID. That's what I'm looking for. If somebody can help me find it, because I did a little search on OSHA website and I couldn't find specifically, I couldn't find anything about what a specific business has to do to be in compliance under COVID to avoid these $13,000 fines. Even if somebody can help me find the text, where does it say that you get fined $13,000 for each infraction? So I'm just putting that out there. If anybody is a good researcher and you have time to dig that up, I'm a good researcher. I just don't have time right this minute to do these deep dives, but I would, once I get the information, I can process it. My brain can go through it and I can help interpret this. Okay. So now let me go into voting. This is actually good news. I wanted to just give you guys an update. I was listening to Bannon's War Room this morning, and they had Richard Barris on there. He is a polling analyst out of Florida, and he's very smart. He is one of the people that was really on top of the polling in 2016. He's one of the people that we were relying on to make sure that that we knew exactly where Trump was, because we couldn't rely on the fake news to tell us really truly what's happening. Um, so um, so Richard Barris, and so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update about this, because he was giving some very encouraging information, and one of the things that he was talking about was the Hispanic vote in Florida, specifically in Miami-Dade. So do you remember? Do you remember what I was saying the other day about how you can look at early voting and how you can look at the stats from now versus 2016, and you can sort of read between the lines. If you missed that, I talked about it, I think, both on Monday and Tuesday on my show. But what he was talking about is actual polling, and they do real live polling. They make phone calls, they talk to people, and he takes deep dives into it. And I do think that if you want to know more detail about it, go to War Room Pandemic from today on YouTube and listen, because uh, is that Michelle sending me that link? Okay. But that looks like Huffington Post. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me go back to the election. So he said something interesting. He said that he was polling the Hispanics in Miami-Dade. Remember, I told you that Miami is a blue county. That county, Miami-Dade, went for Hillary. I believe it was 64% or more that went for Hillary. Maybe it was like 68%. It was a huge percentage in 2016 for Hillary. Now, why is that significant? Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so why is that significant? Because it's significant because this time around, one demographic is voting overwhelmingly for Trump, and they weren't before, and that is the Venezuelans. 70% or more of the Venezuelans are in for Trump. This is a big deal. This is a really big deal. Those of you who are posting links for me in the Periscope chat, if you could send them to me by email, that would be really great, because I can't get them through the chat. It's It is Mary Grace info at marygracemedia.com. Please email me those links and just put a label so that I know what the link is about. I'm not going to click on random links. I would appreciate it though. All right, so 64%. Thank you, Delia. Now, so 64% went for Hillary in 2016. Over 70% of the Venezuelans are going to be voting for Donald Trump in this election in Miami-Dade County. So he could actually win that county. The other county that is challenging for him is Palm Beach County. There's a few down there. I feel like he's going to do really well in Florida based on what I'm seeing. Another indicator that came up for Virginia was very interesting, and that is that a large portion of the population that's not being counted in polls are white males, like 45 and older, and then a and then the uh, and then the what do you call it? The non-college educated males. Who are those people? So that's military. Usually they count those. The trades, all the people who work in the trades. So your plumber, your electrician, your mechanic. These people who are listening and paying attention, and they're seeing their salaries affected. They're seeing their families affected. Everything that they hold dear, that they have worked for years for, is being threatened. They're not answering polls. They're not engaging in political activism or things like that because they're working. They're busy working and raising their families. And so, and they're the least likely to answer these polls. The media and the left consider this group of individual to be uneducated because they don't have an Ivy League degree. They're not Harvard educated. They're not Yale educated. So in the minds of the media, even though somebody could be an officer in the military, um, who has been educated through the military, they consider them non-educated. Okay, you could be a nuclear specialist in the Navy, and they consider you to be non-educated, non-college educated, because you don't have that Ivy League degree. I'm not kidding. And so that demographic is very underrepresented in the polls. And so that's something to consider. I really do feel like the president needs a decisive landslide, and he needs a decisive landslide in the popular vote as well as the electoral vote. That is what we're praying for. And we really want to make sure that he gets over the finish line here, and that um, most of his that his votes, that we get so many votes that come in on election day, that the mail-in votes and the absentee ballots are irrelevant, that it doesn't matter that North Carolina has been given 9 extra days to count mail-in ballots. We want there to be such a landslide. And a lot of these people, a lot of these people are going to show up on election day because it's important to them to cast their ballot on the day of. And some people are early voting, but they're not. Now, Larry Norris just said something in the comments. He said, I was one of those people. I was one of those people that would be considered non-college educated. Now, Larry is in another demographic as well. He's a non-college educated Black man. And so he's actually in two of the categories that they completely dismiss. And so uh, I think that we really can't dismiss these demographics of people that won't answer the polls, that the media, the leftists, completely dismiss as irrelevant to the outcome of an election. It's very interesting. Now, the it is a spiritual battle. It's very much a spiritual battle. And when you go back and read this letter from the from the Archbishop, it is important to understand that. And he's witnessing it, and he's putting himself on the line there. I mean, he's actually going against the Pope. And in the world of the Catholics, that's going against God. So thank you, Linda, for helping. Linda's on YouTube asking my YouTube viewers to hit the thumbs up. I really do appreciate that. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to take a little break here, a promotional break. And if you're on Facebook, please like not only the video, share the video, like the video, but like my page. Please follow Mary Grace Media, like Mary Grace Media on Facebook. And also, if you're on Twitter or Periscope, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel and that you have your notifications on. If you're on Clout Hub, subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that you'll know when I go live. Okay, now let's see, where are we? Everyone I know is voting for Trump. Okay, let me tell you a little bit more about the election. I'm going to give you some anecdotal information. Yesterday, when we were on the way to DC, we stopped at a rest stop and we ran into a trucker. We stopped at Sheets and we were talking to a guy who turned out to be a long haul trucker. And he said that he was taking yesterday off so that he could vote and he was taking the weekend off. The reason that he was taking yesterday off is that he has been working for multiple weeks straight without a break because the economy is booming and he's just been working nonstop. And he told them, he said, I just need a day off. I got to go vote. And so he's taking the day off and the weekend off. And the other thing he told us, we were talking about Trump. He loves Trump. And he said, he said, if the, he said, if Trump loses, our industry is going to tank. And he said, we have been so busy under Trump. We had so much work, even through the pandemic. People are making so much money. They're getting more work than they can handle. And I've talked to another trucker too, who's corroborated that. And so they need to have, they need to have, the, they need to have Trump in office to maintain this momentum. Now, the other thing that he's telling me is that pretty much everybody he knows in trucking, all the truckers, he said about 99% of the truckers are pro-Trump. Everywhere he goes, they're pro-Trump. Okay, so let me move on to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, I have a friend, her family owns a farm there. They have had the farm in the family for over 100 years. So this is a multi-generational farm. Her family are Democrats. This is in Western Pennsylvania, like Mercersburg area. Her family are Democrats. They have voted Democrat for years. And they are voting for Trump this year. Everybody in the family, because President Trump has been so good to farmers. And they know that if he leaves office, if Biden gets in, all of that's going to reverse. Again, these are blue dog Democrats. They have always voted Democrat. They can't do it. They also have family and friends in Philadelphia, and they're seeing what's happening in these cities, and they're done. They are done. Okay. So this is this is an example of a Democrat, a registered Democrat going to the polls and voting for President Trump. And so when the Democrats are turning in all of these early voting numbers and they're thinking that it means that they're in the lead, I'm just going to tell you that if this family in Pennsylvania is any example, we're talking about a big extended family. They're all voting for Trump and they're all registered Democrats. So that is a really good indicator. And that's in Pennsylvania. That's in Pennsylvania. And so these people who are rioting and destroying things, they're not doing the Democrats any favors. This same friend of mine was telling me that her nephew is a firefighter, and he was a firefighter, and he actually quit the force. He left firefighting, and I'll tell you why. He said because the last fire he went to, the last incident he went to, they were being shot at by Antifa and BLM. They were going into a fire in the midst of bullets. He said that EMTs in the area where he is can't go to the scene of any accident now without a police escort. And this is what he said, which was really interesting about firefighters. He said, even if, he said, there may be some racism among police, maybe. But he said, with firefighters, he said, nobody asks before they go into a fire to save a life what color the people are in the house. He said, you go in, you save a life, you don't ask any questions. So it's very interesting, isn't it? Again, a Democrat left firefighting and is going, yeah, he's voting for Trump. So these are good examples. And I think somebody just said that 20 to 30, 25 to 30% of registered Democrats are voting for Trump. Yeah. So these are the anecdotal on the ground examples. And our country we have to take our country back. We have to. Where was it? Pennsylvania. This is where the friends that I'm talking about. My friend is in Virginia, but her family is in Pennsylvania, and they're all Democrats. She also has family in New York, and these people again are they're voting for Trump because of what's happening in the financial sector. None of them wants to be taxed at 62% on their income, and they're in finance, insurance, things like that. White collar, and they've been Democrats, and they're just disgusted with what they're seeing. They're voting for Trump in New York. They're scared. Her relatives in New York are scared to leave their house because of the lawlessness that is happening in that city. That's how bad it is. And so, and here's the other thing. They're actually talking about it. They're telling her that they're going to vote. They're telling their family members, they're open about the fact that they're going to vote for Trump. Think about all of the people that are not talking about it. Think about the people who are just quietly going to go to the polls with their Democrat voter registration, and they're just going to get in there and vote, and they're going to be like, Trump, 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 Republican, Republican, Republican. And they're not going to tell anybody who they voted for. They don't have a Trump flag out. They're just going about their business. They're praying that their business is open after November 4th, because if the Democrats take over, the whole country will be on lockdown. And the president is the president is not exaggerating when he says there will be a mask mandate and the country will be on lockdown. I just explained to you that I found out that the state of Virginia is going to remain under a mask mandate indefinitely, that it's permanent. This is what my friend was told when the OSHA lady came into her business. Permanent. And what did I tell you guys back in, when did they start this? When they started really pushing the mask thing? Was it May, when I came out and showed you and said, our nation, our nation is being put under Sharia law. I told you that. And so, you know, my ancestors didn't fight the Revolutionary War. They didn't fight the British for me to be walking around with a forced medical device on my body, a forced face covering. Not happening. Yeah. We didn't get this far. My great uncle didn't die at Iwo Jima fighting the Japanese for me to be walking around with a forced face covering. It's not happening. Yeah. The mandate came sooner in my state, Delia. Um, yeah. So, okay, let me check my notes here. Checks notes. All right. I think I got through everything. Let me just look at your let me look at your comments here. Thank you to everyone who's following along on YouTube. I am working on getting my moderators up on YouTube, and I think that I can get moderators on Facebook too if I need it. New York for Trump. Yeah, in terms of the numbers for Trump, I think it's really significant and important to understand that he has so much momentum. You can't hide the fact that President Trump is drawing crowds by the thousands wherever he goes. And then think about this. I haven't seen General Flynn's warning. Somebody put that up. I'll take a look at it. Is that on Twitter? Okay, so thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. Love you. Okay, so here's the thing. When in history Have you ever seen the organic uprising of support for a president? Has that ever happened? You know, name one politician, one public figure, one entertainer who has people showing up and rallying for them when that person isn't there. Think about that. Okay, so it's one thing that we have the president. Okay, so the president is yeah, so the president is drawing massive crowds at his rallies, even when they're announced with 24 hours notice. Okay, he's bringing 20 30,000 people in a rally, and they're all chanting, "I love you, we love you, we love you, we love you." Who does that? Not even entertainers get that. I mean, and he's getting like sports arena crowds. He's getting the sports fans crowds, right? And so, yeah, and they're trying to limit it. The whole thing with the lockdowns and all of the restrictions on gatherings, that's all about stopping Trump. And so what happens, these organic gatherings just pop up everywhere. And so, right? Um yeah, yeah, if you have any opportunity or any place that you can have a rally or a car, a drag the interstate rally or a boat parade or walking through Beverly Hills, like when has that ever happened? Imagine doing that. Think of any rock star or sports star that that would just spark a spontaneous rally, an outpouring of love when that individual isn't even present. Like, think about that. I mean, think about the biggest names in entertainment that we've known in our lifetime. Imagine if I went on YouTube or on social media and said, "Hey, I'm having a gathering this weekend to celebrate, I don't know who's a big star, Whitney Houston. Okay, I'm having a gathering this weekend to celebrate Whitney Houston. Everybody come." Okay, what would the first question be? Well, is Whitney going to be there? I just pulled that name out of a hat. Okay. So yeah, so right, what anybody, like, nobody would come. They would be like, "Wait, she's not going to be there." They wouldn't come. So we have people having these gatherings for President Trump. He's not even there. Like, this is unprecedented, isn't it? This is amazing. It's amazing. And people are having, yeah, they're having rallies in Hawaii. They're having rallies in California. It's amazing. Yeah. Just unbelievable. So this really should encourage you. And again, I want to take you back to what Kat Kerr was talking about yesterday when I was showing her on my broadcast, and that is that she said that that President Trump is going to get 4 more years, and that God is showing her that Pence is going to be the president after that. Now, I'm not going to go into your feelings about Pence. He's not deep state. You may think he is. He wouldn't have lasted this long if he was, but I've talked about that in other shows. So, but the point is that there's going to be years and years and years of God in the White House. That's what God is showing her. That this is just the beginning. And I think that we really need to just be in prayer and agreement on that. A lot of people are getting distracted by the fact that they're hearing that there's going to be civil war, that there's going to be all of this unrest, that we're going to be in a time of great trial and tribulation. I don't see that. Um, I see that the goodness and love of God is being restored to our nation and to our world. Does that mean that the left isn't going to go down in kicking and screaming and wailing and gnashing of teeth? 24 years, thank you. That right? That doesn't mean they're not going to manifest, but I don't think we're going to be in a civil war. I really don't. Uh, is it important to be prepared? Is it important to protect your family? Is it important to to have food prepared for in case of an emergency, money set aside for an emergency. That's just prudence. That's just plain that's just plain, good sense to prepare for an emergency, whether it's a, power outage or a weather emergency or whatever it is. That's just good sense, guys. So, but I think that I really want to encourage you to look at what God is doing and the fact that he is restoring this nation, that he's bringing restoration and life to our world. I don't think that he's bringing us through all of this to put us in a civil war. Americans don't want to be at war with one another. We really don't. We want to live our lives, run our businesses, take care of our families, go on vacation, enjoy the beautiful country that we live in. We live in the best country in the world. People die to get to this country. We're not going to destroy it. The people that you see destroying cities and destroying businesses, they don't represent the majority of this country. This is a faction of anarchists. They're highly organized. And so, yes, we've got to take this out. Okay. Somebody in the chat said there will be outbreaks of violence. They'll be quickly extinguished, gloves off. Okay. So, yeah, I just think that we really need to understand that the president's not going to allow this, especially after he gets elected. There are things that he's waiting on, right? He's waiting to drop the hammer. All right. Yeah, we have to stand in belief now. And believe me, I'm going to be honest. When I see these things happening to friends of mine, I see, these crazy regulations and the fines and these people telling them how to run their business and, upsetting the apple cart of something that's been working and putting things in place that prevent people from growing their businesses and being successful. That really eats at me. It really, it's very easy to get discouraged by that, but I can't, I can get angry, and it is important to operate in righteous anger, but I can't let that stop me from moving forward. Okay. And so I encourage you to listen. I've been on for almost an hour. I'm going to play it by ear this weekend in terms of broadcasting. I may come back on, especially if we have breaking news and because I know that we're in a critical time leading up to the election. I may be at a Trump rally on Monday, and so I normally do a show at 5 o'clock Eastern on Mondays. I'll let you guys know. But again, just keep your notifications on. If I go live, then you'll get your notification. But I do appreciate everybody following. And again, if you want to support the show, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can go to the website marygracemedia.com and click on support. You can email me info@marygracemedia.com to get my PO box and my Venmo link if you want to support me in that way to support the show. You can also purchase superfoods, and a lot of you have heard me talk about superfoods. Some of you are new for this, new to my show. I have a line of organic green superfoods that are just fantastic, super easy to use, really nutritious. It's a life changer and a game changer for a lot of people. And so I have a voucher that I can give you for up to $100 off of your 1 month supply. So for your first order, you can get from $50 to $100 off. And if you order a month's supply, you're going to get over $100 off. So make sure you message me to get that voucher and get more information about the superfoods. That's one of the things that I use. That's one of the reasons that I look so healthy and that I have the brain power that I do. And I'm not coming to you foggy and fatigued in the late afternoon. And so, part of what we use for the superfoods is our shakes, and that is something that I have at least once a day. And there's other components to it as well. So message me info@marygracemedia.com. The superfoods are amazing, amazing. So just make sure that you message me on that. Somebody asked me about General Flynn. I haven't looked at his warning. I would take any warning from General Flynn seriously. So I want to put that out there. But going back to the superfoods, Delia just said she's down for 41.4 pounds. Um, Amazing. And she's just been using the superfoods. She hasn't been hungry. She doesn't have cravings. She's just really doing a lot better. Um, so if you want information about the superfoods, if you want to get that voucher, I'm encouraging you to do that, especially as the holidays get near. There's really, you don't use the holidays as an excuse to let your health go. Use it as a reason to invest in your health. As you're spending money, you're shopping, you're investing, you're giving gifts to other people, give yourself the gift of better health this season. Okay. Don't be one of those people that gets to January 1st and says, oh my gosh, I have to start over, right? Because that never works. So, info at marygracemedia.com. Check it out, and you can, you can get more information from me. I'll tell you all about it. Okay. Now I will be back soon, hopefully on Monday. I will definitely be doing a show on Tuesday, which is election day. If you have not already voted early and in person, do that. Make sure that you help other people get to the polls. I took a friend to the polls today. She's disabled. It was very hard for her to get into the polls. And so I helped her. She actually did the car voting, but I took her ballot in and put it in the machine. I don't think they wanted me to do that, but I did. So that's the way we did it. But just make sure you vote, because if you don't, none of this matters. Okay, we have to get the president back in office, and we have to flip the House and keep the Senate. So every vote down the ticket matters. All right, take care, everybody. Love you guys. Thank you for being here, and I will be back.